Most people spend their lives trying to change what they do, thinking that if they can just get their actions right, they'll finally become who they want to be. We join gyms, download productivity apps, buy books we never finish, all with the hope that a tweak in our behavior will lead to transformation. But behavior is the surface. Identity is deeper, and identity is not built by what you do occasionally. It's shaped by what you think about consistently. We don't become what we do, we become what we think about. The quiet conversations you have with yourself when no one's watching, the ones filled with doubt or hope or regret or purpose, those are not background noise. They're blueprints. If you tell yourself you're not good enough, that becomes your truth. If you tell yourself you have potential, that belief starts to build a path forward. It's not magic, it's wiring. The brain listens to whatever story you repeat. Eventually, it obeys. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a person who tells themselves every day, I'm not a leader. They might have ideas, they might even have passion, but they second guess, they defer, they hold back. Why? Not because they can't lead, but because their thoughts won't let them. They're imprisoned by a story they wrote a long time ago and forgot to question. So their behaviors follow that narrative. They act small because they think. Now imagine someone else who tells themselves, I'm still learning, but I have what it takes to lead. That person will act differently. They'll ask better questions. They'll raise their hand more often. They'll take small risks. Why? Because they believe in the possibility of growth. They're not faking confidence, they're practicing belief. And that belief reshapes their identity over time. We tend to think identity is something we find, like it's hidden under a rock or locked inside a vault. It's not. Identity is something we build, moment by moment, thought by thought. You're not born a leader or an artist or an innovator. You become one by thinking like one, and thinking like one long before you have proof. But here's the trap. Most of us spend more time thinking about what we fear than about what we want to become. We obsess over what might go wrong, what people might say, how we might fail. And the more time you spend thinking about fear, the more your identity becomes built around avoidance. And eventually, it's not just that you're afraid, you become someone who avoids. And that's a very different life to live. Our brains are like soil. Whatever seed you plant, fear, gratitude, anger, hope, will grow if you water it. So the question isn't whether your thoughts are shaping you. The question is, what kind of person are they shaping you into? I once spoke to a young woman who told me she wanted to be a public speaker, but she said, I'm not naturally confident. I asked her, how often do you tell yourself that? She paused. All the time, she admitted. And I told her, that's your biggest barrier. Not the skill of speaking, not the fear of the stage, but the idea you've accepted about who you are. Because you cannot build a new life on top of an old mindset. Let me repeat that. You cannot build a new life on top of an old mindset. There are no neutral thoughts. Every thought is either building your identity or breaking it down. You might not notice the shift day by day, but over months, years, it becomes undeniable. Think of it like a compass. If you're off by just 1 degree, you might not notice it today, but walk far enough and you'll be miles from where you wanted to go. Your thoughts are that 1 degree. Slight, subtle, but deeply consequential. And this isn't about positive thinking. It's not about mantras and mirrors and pretending everything's fine. It's about truthful thinking. About choosing to focus your thoughts on what is possible, what is purposeful, and what is aligned with the person you want to become, even when reality hasn't caught up yet. This is why vision matters. Because vision is the future you begin rehearsing in your mind before the world ever sees it. And every time you imagine that future, every time you mentally walk into it, you lay another brick in the foundation of your identity. You start to think like the person who belongs in that vision. And thinking like that person eventually leads you to act like them. So if you don't like who you're becoming, don't start with your actions, start with your thoughts. Ask yourself, what story am I rehearsing every day? What beliefs have I accepted without question? What kind of person would I be if I thought differently? When we change our thoughts, we change our identity. And when we change our identity, the actions follow naturally. You don't need to force them. You don't need to fake them. They just become part of who you are. You become someone who finishes, someone who shows up, someone who leads, not because you followed a checklist, but because you rewired the core. You changed the script in your head, and the rest of your life began to follow the new narrative. It all begins with what you think about, because that's who you'll become. So the question is simple. Who are you becoming? And an even better question, what are you thinking about? There's a difference between wishing for something and believing in it. Wishing is passive. It floats in your mind like a nice idea, but it doesn't carry weight. It doesn't create change. Belief, on the other hand, is active. It has gravity. It anchors your attention, pulls your energy, and slowly, quietly reshapes your actions to align with it. And when that belief is focused, not scattered, not vague, but intentional, it becomes a force that turns thought into reality. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they never fully commit to a belief. They move halfway toward a goal, keeping one foot in and one foot out, telling themselves it's safer not to go all in. And so they dabble. They try things, but they don't truly believe in them. Not deep down. They're hoping it works. But hope without belief is weak. It wavers. It retreats at the first sign of resistance. But belief, that's different. Belief says, this matters. This is real to me, even if no one else sees it yet. And focused belief goes even further. It says, this is what I believe, why I believe it, and I'm willing to align how I live around it. Because the truth is, what you believe drives how you behave. Always. Even when you don't notice it. If you believe you're unworthy of success, you'll sabotage opportunity. If you believe you're always behind, you'll chase things that don't actually matter. If you believe the world is against you, you'll start looking for proof that you're right, and you'll find it. But if you believe you are capable of learning, you'll face hard things with curiosity instead of fear. If you believe you bring value, you'll stop begging for permission to speak. If you believe your vision matters, you'll keep building it even when no one claps. Focused belief doesn't just help you endure, it helps you choose what's worth enduring. I once spoke to an entrepreneur who spent years building his company with barely any revenue, no followers, no validation. I asked him, what kept you going? He didn't hesitate. He said, I believed this work needed to exist. Not I hoped it would work out, not I thought it might go viral. He believed, and that belief became the center of gravity that shaped every decision. You see, belief is not something you feel when things are going well. Belief is what you hold on to before anything has worked, before there's proof, before the doors open, before the results arrive. It's the voice that says, even if no one else sees it, I do. That kind of belief doesn't need applause, it just needs clarity. And here's the irony. Most people think they'll believe in themselves after they succeed, but it's the other way around. You succeed because you first believe. Belief creates alignment. It turns scattered energy into focused movement. When you believe in a mission, your habits start shifting. You stop wasting time trying to please everyone. You start saying no to distractions. You begin measuring your day not by how much you did, but by how close you moved toward what matters. But unfocused belief, that's dangerous too. When you believe the wrong things rooted in fear, scarcity, comparison, you still get alignment, but it's alignment in the wrong direction. You might become incredibly good at playing small. You might become disciplined in your self-doubt. Because belief, focused or not, always grows roots. That's why you have to be intentional about what you believe. Ask yourself, is this belief serving me? Is it making me more courageous, more honest, more alive? Or is it making me shrink? If your belief system is built around staying safe, staying liked, or staying small, you're not building a life, you're building a prison. Focused belief, by contrast, frees you. It gives you a center, a reason to keep showing up even when no one is watching. It helps you weather disappointment because you're not chasing approval, you're building something you believe in. That's why some people can fail again and again and still get back up. It's not because they're stubborn, it's because their belief is focused on something bigger than results. Belief also clarifies identity. When you believe in a vision, you begin to ask, what kind of person do I need to become to make this real? You don't just dream about outcomes. You think about character. You start aligning your choices with a person who belongs in that future. That's how real change begins, not with discipline alone, but with the belief that fuels discipline. Think of belief like the frame of a house. If the frame is weak, it doesn't matter how beautiful the paint is, it's not going to stand. But if the frame is strong, even the storms won't shake it. Focused belief is your internal frame. It holds your mission steady while the world outside changes. And the stronger that frame, the more clearly others will see what you stand for. That's another hidden gift of belief. It's contagious. People are drawn to clarity. They follow conviction. They respond not to volume, but to alignment. When someone really believes in what they're saying, you can feel it. It's not loud. It's not forced. It's steady. And that steadiness gives people something to trust. So don't wait for someone else to believe in you. That's not where it starts. Belief is not given, it's chosen. And once you choose it, you begin to shape a life around it. Not instantly, not perfectly, but intentionally. And the more intentional you are about your belief, the more your actions begin to reflect it. And the more your actions reflect it, the more your reality shifts to match what you once could only imagine. You don't become what you want, you become what you believe. And belief is a choice you make every single day. Most people underestimate the true cost of negativity. We think of it as something that just makes a bad day worse, something annoying or inconvenient. But it's much more dangerous than that. Negativity doesn't just ruin a moment, it reshapes your mindset. It subtly rewires how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the future. And the worst part? Most of us don't even notice it's happening. And we think we're just being realistic, but we're not. We're being ruled by fear disguised as wisdom. Every negative thought you tolerate comes with a price. The price is your energy, your potential, your ability to act with clarity and courage. And over time, the price becomes even greater. It becomes your identity. You cannot entertain thoughts of failure every day and expect to feel confident when it matters. You cannot surround yourself with people who constantly complain and expect to stay inspired. And you cannot allow your inner dialogue to be driven by doubt and still believe you're building a meaningful life. That's not how the mind works. It listens to every word you say, to others and to yourself. And it doesn't distinguish between truth and repetition. It believes whatever you tell it most often. Negativity may feel familiar. It may even feel safe. But it's slowly building a life you never wanted. It talks you out of the very actions that would move you forward. It tells you to wait, to hold back, to protect yourself from disappointment. And it dresses all of that fear up as logic. Why bother? It probably won't work. Someone else has already done it better. These are not questions, they're instructions. And when you follow them long enough, you build a pattern that becomes hard to break. I've met brilliant, passionate people who have done nothing with their ideas. Not because they weren't capable, but because they let negativity define the boundaries of their imagination. And when you let that happen, it's not just the idea that dies. A piece of you dies with it. The part that believes in what's possible, the part that dares to hope, the part that still wants to try. We talk about energy all the time as if it's unlimited, but it's not. Your focus, your belief, your resilience, these are limited resources. And negativity is one of the fastest ways to drain them. Every time you argue for your limitations, every time you dwell on the worst case scenario, every time you surround yourself with people who do nothing but complain, you are spending energy that could be used to build something better. You don't have to pretend everything is okay, but you do have to be honest about whether the story you're telling yourself is helping or hurting. Because negativity never shows up saying, I'm here to destroy you. It shows up quietly. It shows up as sarcasm, as criticism, as cynicism, as that voice in your head that says, don't get your hopes up. And over time, that voice becomes normal. It becomes the filter through which you see the world. But here's the truth. That filter is not fixed. You can change it. And it starts with awareness, with the courage to ask yourself, is this thought useful? Not is it true, because lots of true things aren't useful. Bad things might happen. You might fail. People might judge you. But focusing on those possibilities doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you of work. Growth begins the moment you take responsibility for your thoughts. It begins when you stop blaming your environment, your past, or your personality and start deciding how you want to interpret your experiences. Because between what happens and how you respond, there's a gap. And in that gap lives your power. Negativity tries to close that gap. It tries to convince you that your reaction is automatic, that you don't have a choice, but you always do. You can choose to see feedback as failure or as fuel. You can choose to see risk as danger or as opportunity. You can choose to see discomfort as a problem or as a path. Every single day, you're shaping your future with your thoughts. And if you keep planting seeds of fear, you can't be surprised when you grow a life full of doubt. But when you begin to plant something different, something hopeful, something constructive, something bold, you give yourself permission to become more than just a product of your past. And this isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending life is easy or ignoring pain. It's about refusing to let your pain become your identity. It's about choosing to focus on what builds you instead of what breaks you.